The crystalline towers of Meridian Prime stretched toward the binary stars like frozen songs, their surfaces refracting light in mesmerizing patterns across the capital city. Queen Zarina stood at her observation deck, her silver-scaled skin shimmering as she watched another diplomatic vessel depart. This one had carried the High Prince of the Centaurian Collective, whose marriage proposal she had rejected just as firmly as the previous 17 suitors this cycle. "Your Majesty," announced Royal Advisor Thessa, her movements graceful despite her advanced age, "the Council grows increasingly concerned about your continued refusals." Zarina turned, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with barely contained irritation. "The Council's concern is noted, Thessa, just as it was noted the last dozen times. The Celestial Empire has thrived under matriarchal rule for 10 millennia. I will not dilute our bloodline with inferior genes simply to appease traditional expectations. It's not just tradition, my queen. The void plague spreads across our outer colonies. Our scientists estimate we have less than 2 stellar cycles before it reaches the core worlds. The ancient texts speak of similar catastrophes, and how they were survived through genetic diversity and adaptation." Zarina's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of deep thought. The void plague was unlike anything their civilization had encountered, a quantum anomaly that disrupted the very fabric of spacetime, rendering vast regions uninhabitable. Their best minds had failed to find a solution, and now their empire faced an existential threat. "What of the humans?" Zarina asked suddenly. "Their delegation arrives tomorrow, do they not?" Thessa's facial tendrils writhed in disapproval. "Yes, though I fail to see how these newcomers could help. Their civilization is barely a millennium old, their technology primitive compared to ours. And yet," Zarina countered, "they survived their own brush with quantum collapse a century ago. Their papers on dimensional stabilization, while crude, show promise." Before Thessa could respond, the palace's warning systems flared to life. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing a massive energy surge at the edge of the system. Zarina's guards immediately moved to protective positions, their crystalline armor humming with power. "Unknown vessel emerging from hyperspace," announced the palace AI. "Configuration matches no known design." The vessel that appeared on their screens was unlike anything Zarina had ever seen. It moved with impossible grace, its hull seeming to bend light around it rather than reflect it. And it was headed straight for Meridian Prime. "Incoming transmission," the AI reported. "Origin, Earth Diplomatic Corps." "Display," Zarina commanded, her curiosity overriding protocol. The hologram that materialized showed a human female, tall by their standards, with dark skin and stark white hair worn in elaborate braids. She wore a uniform that somehow managed to look both formal and ready for combat. "Queen Zarina of the Celestial Empire," the human spoke in flawless High Celestial, "I am Captain Diana Wells of the Earth Diplomatic Fleet. I apologize for arriving ahead of schedule, but we detected the quantum disturbances in your outer colonies. We believe we can help." Zarina studied the human carefully. There was something in those eyes, a fierce intelligence, yes, but also something else. A challenge, perhaps. Or understanding. "Your linguistic skills are impressive, Captain Wells," Zarina replied. "As is your vessel's capability to navigate our quantum destabilized spaces. The Nightwalker was specifically designed for operations in compromised spacetime," Diana explained. "We've developed certain advantages since our own encounter with dimensional collapse." "Landing permissions granted," Zarina declared, ignoring Thessa's shocked intake of breath. "I will meet you personally." As the transmission ended, Thessa moved closer. "My queen, this is highly irregular. The human should go through proper diplomatic channels. The proper channels haven't saved a single colony," Zarina cut her off. "Perhaps it's time we learn to be irregular." An hour later, Zarina stood in the palace's private landing bay, watching as the human vessel settled onto the crystalline platform with impossible precision. The ship's design defied conventional physics, its surface seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. When Captain Diana Wells emerged, Zarina felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries: surprise. The human moved with a predator's grace, every step precise yet fluid. Her uniform, which had appeared simple in the hologram, now revealed subtle patterns that mimicked celestial formal wear while remaining distinctly Earth military. "Your Majesty," Diana bowed precisely to the correct degree, not too deep to suggest submission, not too shallow to show disrespect. "Thank you for seeing me directly. Time, I fear, is not our ally in this matter." "Explain," Zarina commanded, leading them toward her private council chamber. "The void plague, as you call it, isn't just spreading," Diana said as they walked. "It's accelerating. We've been tracking similar phenomena across 3 galaxies. Your empire isn't just in its path, it's at the epicenter of something far larger." Zarina stopped, turning to face the human. "You knew this was coming?" "We suspected. We've been trying to warn several civilizations, but most dismiss us as primitive upstarts." Diana's lips curved in a slight smile. "You're the first to grant me a direct audience. Perhaps because you're the first to bypass our entire diplomatic corps to get one," Zarina observed dryly. "Sometimes the direct approach is best." Diana's eyes met hers without flinching. Especially when dealing with someone known for rejecting traditional methods. Zarina felt her bioluminescent patterns shift with amusement. "You've studied our customs well, Captain Wells." "Diana, please." "And yes, I have. Just as I've studied you, Your Majesty. You're not rejecting suitors because of genetic purity, you're rejecting them because they all want to rule beside you rather than serve with you." The observation hit uncomfortably close to truth. Before Zarina could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. New holographic displays showed massive distortions forming in the space around 3 outer colonies. "It's happening faster than we predicted," Diana said, all trace of diplomatic pleasantry gone. "Queen Zarina, I need your trust and your help. What I'm about to show you will challenge everything your people believe about the nature of spacetime. Are you ready?" Zarina looked at this human who had burst into her ordered world with impossible ships and uncomfortable truths. "Show me," she commanded. And in that moment, though neither of them knew it yet, everything changed. The Celestial Empire's central command gleamed like a faceted jewel, its crystalline walls displaying real-time data from across their territory. Queen Zarina watched as Diana Wells manipulated the holographic controls with practiced ease, her movements precise as she mapped the spreading quantum distortions. "Your systems are elegant," Diana commented, her fingers dancing through the light displays, "but they're only showing you surface manifestations. The real problem exists in dimensions your sensors aren't calibrated to detect." Zarina's royal guard shifted uncomfortably as the human accessed increasingly restricted systems. First Commander Vesa stepped forward, her ceremonial armor catching the light. "My queen, allowing an outsider such deep access to our defense networks is necessary," Zarina cut her off, watching as new layers of data materialized in the display. The patterns Diana revealed were disturbing, beneath the visible quantum disruptions lay something far more sinister. "This isn't a natural phenomenon," Diana explained, her white braids catching the blue light of the holograms. "These are attack patterns. Someone, or something, is deliberately destabilizing the fabric of spacetime in this sector." Zarina moved closer, her silver scales reflecting the emergency lights that still pulsed through the command center. "Impossible. No known species has such capability." "No currently known species," Diana corrected. She pulled up a new display, showing similar patterns from Earth's historical archives. "We encountered these same signatures during our own crisis. We called them the Void Makers, though we never saw their true form." Before Zarina could respond, a junior officer burst into the command center, her facial tendrils writhing with distress. "My queen. We've lost contact with the Lassarian colony, over 30,000 souls. Diana's hands flew across the controls. Not lost, look. The display zoomed in on the colony's location, showing not empty space, but a swirling mass of distorted reality. They're trapped in a pocket dimension. The colony still exists, but it's being systematically cut off from normal spacetime. Can they be saved? Zarina demanded, her usual regal composure slipping. Yes, but not with conventional methods. Diana turned to face her directly. Your ships are powerful, your technology advanced, but they're designed to work within normal spacetime parameters. What we need is something that can operate outside those parameters entirely. Like your vessel, Zarina realized. The Nightwalker. Exactly. But one ship isn't enough. We need to adapt your fleet, quickly. Diana's dark eyes met Zarina's. I can show your engineers how, but it will mean sharing classified Earth technology. Are you willing to break about a dozen interstellar protocols? Zarina felt the weight of 10,000 years of tradition pressing against her. The Celestial Empire had never accepted outside technological assistance. Their superiority in all fields was a matter of both pride and policy. But as she looked at the spreading darkness in the display, she knew pride might cost her people everything. Commander Vesa, she announced, assemble our top engineering teams. As of now, Captain Wells has full access to our shipyards and research facilities. She held up a hand to forestall the inevitable protests. And send word to the Council, I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7. The command center fell silent. Emergency Protocol 7 hadn't been used in over 2,000 years. It gave the Queen absolute authority, bypassing even the ancient laws that governed their society. There will be resistance, Thessa warned, speaking for the first time since they'd entered the command center. The conservative factions can either adapt or watch our empire dissolve into the void, Zarina finished. She turned to Diana. How quickly can we begin? My engineering team is already on standby. We can start modifications within the hour. Diana paused, something flickering in her eyes. But there's something else you need to know. The modifications, they work best with specific genetic markers. Your ships will need new pilots. What kind of genetic markers? Zarina asked, though something in Diana's expression told her she already knew the answer. The kind more commonly found in your male population, Diana said quietly. The same markers that made them historically better navigators before your laws restricted them from such roles. The silence that followed was deafening. Zarina felt centuries of tradition warring with immediate necessity. She thought of the Lacerian colony, of 30,000 souls trapped in a pocket of twisted spacetime. Of how many more would follow if she clung to the old ways. First Commander Vesa, she said finally, send word to the military academy. All qualified pilots are to report for evaluation, regardless of gender. She met Diana's gaze. Will you oversee the testing personally? Of course, Your Majesty. Was that approval in the human's voice? But we should move quickly. The Void Makers have a pattern, they isolate before they attack. We probably have less than 48 hours before they make their main move. As if to emphasize her words, another alarm blared. 2 more colonies had gone dark, their signatures vanishing into the twisted space between dimensions. Zarina watched the displays, feeling the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. She had just violated half a dozen of her society's most sacred traditions, placed her empire's security in the hands of an alien, and was about to upend her entire culture's gender hierarchy. And somehow, watching Diana Wells confidently direct her staff as if she'd been born to the role, Zarina couldn't bring herself to regret any of it. One more thing, Diana said, turning back to her. These modifications, they work best with paired pilots. Something about shared neural load. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Would you be willing to demonstrate your support by taking the evaluation yourself? Zarina felt her bioluminescent patterns flare with surprise. You want me to pilot one of these modified ships? I want you to pilot the Nightwalker, Diana corrected. With me. In that moment, looking into Diana's unwavering gaze, Zarina realized this crisis might change far more than just her empire's military structure. And for the first time in centuries, the thought of change didn't feel like surrender, it felt like evolution. When do we begin? She asked. Diana's smile was both fierce and beautiful. Right now. The Nightwalker's training chamber pulsed with an otherworldly light as Queen Zarina faced Diana across the neural interface platform. The ship's interior seemed alive, its walls shifting with patterns that mimicked the quantum distortions threatening her empire. The neural link requires complete honesty, Diana explained, adjusting the interface crown that would connect their minds through the ship's systems. Any hesitation, any held-back thoughts or emotions, and the connection fails. Are you ready for that level of intimacy? Zarina's silver scales rippled with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. In 10 millennia of recorded history, no celestial monarch had ever allowed such deep mental contact with another being. Will we retain our individual consciousness? Yes, but we'll experience everything together. Diana's dark eyes met hers. Every thought, every memory, every fear. It's why the paired pilot system is so effective, it forces absolute trust. Before Zarina could respond, the ship's AI announced another colony had gone dark. The display showed the tragic familiar pattern, reality twisting in on itself, trapping thousands more of her people in dimensional limbo. We don't have time for doubt, Diana said softly. Your people need you to take this risk. Zarina straightened, her royal training asserting itself. Proceed, Captain Wells. The neural interface activated with a soft hum. Zarina felt the first tentative touch of Diana's consciousness against hers, and gasped. The human's mind was unlike anything she had expected. Where she had anticipated chaos, she found disciplined strength. Where she expected alien strangeness, she found familiar determination. And underneath it all, she found something that shook her to her core, understanding. Through Diana's eyes, she saw herself as the human saw her, not just as a queen, but as a woman carrying the weight of an empire on her shoulders. She saw her own loneliness reflected back at her, recognized by someone who knew it intimately. Through their shared consciousness, memories flowed. Diana's childhood on Earth's lunar colonies, her rise through the ranks despite those who claimed humans weren't ready for deep space. Zarina's own struggles to prove herself worthy of the crown, the constant pressure to conform to ancient expectations while trying to lead her people forward. By the stars, Zarina whispered, overwhelmed by the intimacy of the connection. Focus, Diana's voice came both through her ears and directly into her mind. Feel how the ship responds to our shared consciousness. The Nightwalker's systems came alive around them, responding to their merged awareness. Zarina felt the ship as an extension of herself, of themselves. Through Diana's experience, she understood how to navigate the twisted spaces between dimensions, how to find paths where normal spacetime had ceased to exist. This is. Zarina struggled to find words. Incredible, Diana finished, their thoughts synchronizing. Now you understand why we need paired pilots. No single mind can process this level of spatial awareness alone. Their shared consciousness expanded, taking in the tactical displays showing the spread of the Voidmaker's attack. Through their merged perception, Zarina saw patterns she had missed before. They're not just attacking randomly, she realized. They're creating a pattern, a cage. Yes, Diana agreed, their minds working in perfect harmony now. They're trying to isolate your core worlds. Cut them off one by one until dash. An alarm blared, interrupting their revelation. First Commander Vessa's voice came through the ship's comm system, my queen. The council chamber, there's been an attack. The neural interface dissolved as both women snapped back to individual awareness. Zarina stumbled slightly, Diana's hand steadying her as they readjusted to separation. We need to go, Diana said, already moving toward the exit. If the Void Makers have agents inside the palace dash. Not the Void Makers, Zarina cut her off, her expression grim. The council was meeting to discuss my invocation of Emergency Protocol 7. This is internal. They raced through the ship's corridors and across the palace grounds. The scene that greeted them in the council chamber confirmed Zarina's fears. Several council members lay unconscious, while others stood with weapons drawn. At their head stood High Counselor Mira, her scales dark with rage. "You've gone too far, Zarina," Mira declared. "Giving aliens access to our most sacred technology. Overturning our gender laws. This ends now." "Stand down, Mira," Zarina commanded, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of authority. "Everything I've done is to save our people. You've abandoned our ways." Mira's weapon hummed with deadly energy. "The old laws protected us, kept us pure, kept us strong. The old laws will kill us." Diana stepped forward, her stance protective despite Zarina's attempt to keep her back. "Your empire faces extinction. The Void Makers don't care about your traditions or your purity. They'll destroy you all equally. Be silent, human." Mira snarled. "This is not your concern." "It became my concern the moment your queen accepted my help," Diana replied calmly. "The moment she showed the courage to put her people's survival above outdated traditions." Zarina felt something shift in the room, saw several council members lower their weapons as Diana's words struck home. Even among the conservatives, the loss of the colonies had shaken their certainty in the old ways. "You're afraid," Zarina addressed them all. "I understand. Everything is changing, faster than anyone could have predicted. But change isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's evolution." She held out her hand to Diana, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Sometimes it's salvation." The gesture's significance wasn't lost on anyone in the room. A celestial queen, touching an alien voluntarily, it violated a dozen ancient taboos. But as Zarina stood there, proud and unashamed, she felt the power of the moment. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about transformation. "I've seen inside her mind," Zarina continued. "Felt her thoughts, her dedication, her determination to help us. The human race survived their own encounter with the Void Makers not because they clung to tradition, but because they dared to evolve. Now we must do the same." One by one, the armed council members lowered their weapons. Only Mira remained defiant, her weapon still raised. "You'll destroy everything we are." "No," Diana said softly. "She'll save everything you can become." The standoff stretched for another tense moment before Mira's weapon finally lowered. "The consequences of this will echo through generations," she warned. "Yes," Zarina agreed, still holding Diana's hand. "They will. And our descendants will thank us for having the courage to change." As palace security arrived to restore order, Zarina turned to Diana. "We need to get back to training." "How long until we can begin retrofitting the fleet?" "The first ships are already being modified," Diana replied. "But we'll need every moment of practice we can get. The Void Makers won't wait for us to be ready." Zarina nodded, already moving back toward the Nightwalker. They had won this battle, but the war, both against the Void Makers and against generations of ingrained prejudice, was far from over. And somewhere in the space between dimensions, their enemy was waiting. The void between dimensions shimmered with unnatural colors as the Nightwalker led the modified celestial fleet through spaces that shouldn't exist. In the neural interface chamber, Zarina and Diana moved as one, their merged consciousness guiding the ship through impossible geometries. "Contact," Diana's voice echoed through their shared awareness. Multiple signatures emerging from the quantum distortions. Through their linked minds, Zarina finally saw them, the Void Makers. They weren't ships in any conventional sense, but rather tiers in reality given purpose and direction. They moved like living equations, each shift in their form rewriting the laws of physics around them. Beautiful, Zarina thought, feeling Diana's agreement echo through their connection. And terrifying. We've got incoming. Diana's tactical awareness merged with Zarina's strategic experience. They're trying to split our formation. The modified celestial ships responded instantly to their commands, their paired pilots, male and female working together for the first time in the Empire's history, moving with growing confidence through the twisted space. Behind them, Meridian Prime's orbital defenses hummed with power, ready for what might be their final stand. Remember, Diana's thoughts flowed into Zarina's mind, they'll try to dash. Open pocket dimensions to trap our ships, Zarina finished, their strategies aligning perfectly. But we're ready for them this time. The first wave of Void Makers struck like a tsunami of broken physics. Reality buckled and warped around the fleet, but the modified ships held formation, their new quantum shields dispersing the worst of the dimensional attacks. Through their neural link, Zarina felt Diana's fierce pride in how quickly the celestial pilots had adapted to the new technology. Multiple distortions forming behind us, First Commander Vessa's voice cut through their shared consciousness. They're trying to cut us off from the capital. As expected, Diana and Zarina thought simultaneously. Their hands moved across the neural interface controls, sending new tactical data to the fleet. Execute Pattern Omega. The celestial ships broke formation in perfect synchronization, reforming into smaller attack groups. Each group was led by a pair of pilots whose neural compatibility scores had rivaled Zarina and Diana's own. The sight of male and female celestials working in perfect harmony brought a surge of emotion that rippled through their mental link. Your people are remarkable, Diana's thought carried warmth that made Zarina's scales shimmer. Look how quickly they've adapted. They just needed the chance to dash. Zarina's response cut off as a massive distortion formed directly ahead. This was different from the others, deeper, more complex. Their command center, Diana realized, their shared analysis confirming the theory. That's where they're coordinating the attacks from. Then that's where we end this. Zarina's determination flowed through their link, met and matched by Diana's courage. The Nightwalker plunged toward the dimensional rift, its quantum drive screaming as they pushed the ship beyond its designed limits. Behind them, the celestial fleet engaged the Void Makers in a dance of impossible physics and desperate courage. As they penetrated the outer layers of the distortion, reality itself seemed to fragment around them. Through their neural link, Zarina felt Diana's memories of Earth's similar battle surge forward, the lessons learned, the sacrifices made, the ultimate price of victory. There has to be another way, Zarina thought fiercely, feeling Diana's surprise at her perception of the humans' hidden plan. I won't let you sacrifice yourself. The quantum cascade has to be stopped at its source. Diana's thoughts were tinged with resignation. Someone has to dash. Then we do it together. Zarina's consciousness wrapped around Diana's, their minds merging more deeply than ever before. My empire, my responsibility. Their shared awareness expanded, taking in every detail of the command center's dimensional structure. They saw the mathematical patterns that held it together, the quantum equations that gave it power. And through Diana's experience and Zarina's innate understanding of stellar mechanics, they saw its weakness. There, they thought as one, the Nightwalker responding to their merged will. The point where all dimensions intersect. They drove the ship toward that impossible point, even as the void around them tried to tear reality apart. Through their neural link, emotions flowed freely now, fear and courage, determination and something deeper, something neither of them had dared acknowledge until this moment. Zarina, Diana's thought was soft despite their desperate situation. I need to tell you Dash. I know, Zarina responded, letting her own feelings flow freely through their connection. I've known since our first neural link. The command center's core pulsed before them, a singularity of twisted spacetime that threatened everything they held dear. The Nightwalker's quantum drives reached critical capacity as they prepared for their final move. For Earth, Diana thought. For the Empire, Zarina responded. For us, they thought together, and activated the quantum cascade. Reality twisted, folded, and shattered around them. The Nightwalker's systems screamed as they forced open a pathway between dimensions, creating a channel for the accumulated quantum energy. Through their neural link, they felt every second of the process, their merged consciousness holding the ship together through sheer will. And in that moment of crisis, as dimensions collided and physics rewrote itself, something extraordinary happened. The bond between them, already stronger than any normal neural link, transcended its technological origins. They weren't just two minds working together anymore, they were something new, something unprecedented. The command center began to collapse, taking the Voidmaker's control over local spacetime with it. But as reality reasserted itself, the Nightwalker was caught in the backwash of dimensional energy. Hold on, they thought as one, their shared consciousness fighting to maintain control of the ship. Just a little longer. The void around them exploded with light, and everything went white. Consciousness returned slowly, like stars emerging from behind a nebula. Zarina opened her eyes to find herself in the Nightwalker's neural interface chamber, the ship's systems humming softly around her. Diana lay beside her, their hands still clasped through the interface controls. Status report, Zarina croaked, her throat dry. The Voidmaker's command center has been destroyed, the ship's AI responded. Local spacetime is stabilizing. All trapped colonies are rematerializing in normal space. Diana stirred, her white braids disheveled but her dark eyes clear as they met Zarina's. We did it, she whispered. The quantum cascade worked. How? Zarina asked, helping Diana sit up. The energy should have torn the ship apart. It nearly did. Diana's fingers traced the neural interface crown she still wore. But our connection, it was stronger than the void between dimensions. Strong enough to hold reality together when physics said it should be impossible. Through the remnants of their neural link, Zarina felt the truth of those words. Their connection hadn't just survived the quantum cascade, it had evolved into something unprecedented. Even now, with the interface powered down, she could sense echoes of Diana's thoughts, feelings, and presence. The ship's communication system crackled to life. My queen. First Commander Vessa's voice carried clear relief. The fleet reports success across all sectors. The dimensional rifts are collapsing. And the colonies, they're all returning. Every single one. Zarina felt tears of joy slip down her scaled cheeks. Casualties? Minimal, Your Majesty. The paired pilot system proved more effective than our highest projections. The cooperation between male and female pilots was extraordinary. Diana smiled, her hand finding Zarina's again. Your people just needed the chance to prove what they could achieve together. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. As the Nightwalker docked at the palace's private bay, they were met by a crowd of officials, scientists, and newly reunited families. The success of the mixed-gender pilot teams had already begun reshaping celestial society's views on traditional roles. In the Great Hall, before the assembled council and military command, Zarina stood proud despite her exhaustion. Today marks not just a victory over an external threat, but a triumph of evolution over stagnation. We faced extinction not because we were weak, but because we refused to grow. That ends now. Her announcement of new laws, abolishing gender restrictions in all fields, establishing permanent cooperation with Earth, and creating a joint fleet of dimension-capable ships, met with overwhelming approval. Even former opponents like High Counselor Mira nodded in acceptance, having witnessed the power of unity firsthand. Later, in the privacy of the palace gardens, Zarina found Diana standing beneath the crystal trees, their leaves chiming softly in the evening breeze. Through their lingering connection, she felt the human's contemplation. You're thinking of leaving, Zarina said softly. Diana turned, moonlight silvering her white braids. I have duties to Earth. Reports to file, knowledge to share. And if I offered you a reason to stay? Zarina moved closer, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with emotions she no longer wished to hide. The Celestial Empire needs an ambassador to Earth. Someone who understands both our peoples. Someone who's proven they can bridge the void between different worlds. Is that all you're offering? Diana asked, her dark eyes holding Zarina's gaze. An ambassadorship? Through their connection, Zarina let Diana feel everything, her admiration, her trust, her growing love. I'm offering partnership, she said softly. In all things. The old laws about royal marriage being limited to pure celestial bloodlines were among those I abolished today. Diana's smile was radiant. Your council might object to their queen taking an alien mate. Let them object. Zarina reached up to trace Diana's cheek. We've proven that the strongest bonds transcend traditional boundaries. Besides, what better way to cement the alliance between our peoples? Always the diplomat, Diana teased, drawing her closer. Always the warrior, Zarina countered, feeling Diana's amusement through their link. Their first kiss was like a quantum cascade in miniature, reality shifting, boundaries dissolving, something new and beautiful emerging from the void between differences. Above them, the binary stars of Meridian Prime painted the crystal trees in shades of gold and silver, while the newly stabilized dimension rippled with possibilities. In the years that followed, the story of how the Celestial Queen found her match in a human warrior became legend. But those who witnessed their joint rule spoke not of legend but of transformation, of how two people from different worlds proved that love, like spacetime itself, cared nothing for artificial boundaries. The Void Makers never returned to threaten the Empire. Some said they recognized the futility of attacking a civilization that had learned to draw strength from diversity. Others claimed they simply couldn't comprehend a reality where their dimensional manipulation was matched by the power of two hearts beating as one. For Zarina and Diana, the truth was simpler. In finding each other, they had discovered something stronger than tradition, more powerful than physics, and more enduring than empire, a love that transcended dimensions. And in the end, that was all that mattered.